is provided for educational purposes only and is not designed to and does not provide medical advice, professional diagnosis, opinion, treatment, or services to you or to any other individual. All health and medical advice should only be obtained directly from a physician. Listening to the information on the webinar does not create a physician-patient relationship, and you assume full responsibility for how you choose to use this information. The information provided on the webinar is not a substitute for medical advice or professional care, and you should not use this information in place of a visit, call consultation, or advice of your physician or other healthcare provider. Hamilton Healthcare System and its related affiliates are not liable or responsible for any advice, course of treatment, diagnosis, or any other service, information, or products you obtain through this webinar. We advise users to always seek the advice of a physician or other qualified healthcare provider with any questions regarding personal health or medical conditions. Never disregard, avoid, or delay any obtaining medical advice from your doctor or other qualified healthcare professionals because of something you have read or heard during this webinar. Never rely on information in this webinar in place as seeking professional medical advice. If you believe you have a medical emergency, you should immediately call 911. If you believe you have any other health problems or if you have any questions regarding your health or medical conditions, you should promptly consult your physician or other healthcare provider. Okay, now that we've got that out of the way, welcome as we are doing our next Live Better, the Best You. So in this series, we are going to be talking about love. It's February, so love is something that usually comes up during this month in your heart health and such. So first, welcome, hello, I'm Emily Elrod. I have a master's in health science, and I am your well-being coach. I want you to know physiology is my background, but most importantly, I'm your cheerleader. I'm here to cheer you on, motivate you, and if you need anything, always feel free to reach out to me. So what is love? That is the question. If anybody wants to say something in the chat, what do you think love is? And there's some cute videos, too, where kids have asked, or have been asked, what is love? And I love their answers as well. But so what is love? Does anybody got any thoughts? Unconditional. Yes. Anybody else? What is love? Anybody else? Feelings, yes. Yeah. So if we go to Google, what is love? Love is an intense feeling of deep affection, fondness, tenderness, warmth, intimacy, attachment, endearment. It's a great interest and pleasure in something, or it could be a verb, a feel of deep romantic or sexual attachment to someone. Typically, whenever we hear about love, it's either done like the movies. It's the lovey-dovey feeling. And even if you look at pictures of it, you see the person proposing and people jumping so happy. So is that really love? I'm going to try to convince you in this is that love is this, a policeman, a cheerleader, and a grandma, and is not an angry person. That's actually a joke. So if you have been in any of my classes, you may possibly know what this means, but I'll go a little bit deeper. What I believe love is the physiology behind it is that love is safety, it's reward, it is love in itself, and we'll go more in deep in that. And then it is not anger, it's not cortisol. So as we talked in previous, that these are the four biochemicals that we talk a lot about. Serotonin being safety, that is your comfort. It's found in your brain and your gut, but 90% of it is actually in your gut. You have those gut feelings that something's not right. Dopamine, that's your reward, that's your cheerleader, that's your rah, 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 good job, you know. Oxytocin is the love, that's the love hormone. It can be done with, felt with touching, but it also can be felt with love at first sight. So whenever you have a child, it's what makes the contractions awful, so that you can have your baby and have that connection with them. So that is love. And then it is not angry. So it is not whenever you're frustrated. It's not your angry coworker is what we call on that one. So that person that comes in the room and you're just like, ah. So that is not what love is. Love is not that. So let's go a little bit deeper into this. My definition is love is safe, Love is forgiving. Love, whenever I say that it is that serotonin release. If you've ever had that relationship, you know that it is one that you feel comfortable with. Love is kind. Love is not negative. Love is trusting. Love is empathic. And love does not anger, and love is understanding. We'll go deeper into these later on. But this is my definition of love. And this is what I hope that with this thought of what the definition of love is for you, and not being that Hollywood, it's the movies, that lovey-dovey. That is not what love is for me whenever I speak about love. So do you guys know the physiology? If we're going to talk about the romantic side of it also, but what is love? Physiology, it actually starts with a dopamine release. And so you can even see it in the brain scans. It looks like a little heart too. And so it is in the hypothalamus, and it is secreted. And it is that little reward. It may be the touch of the hand or something. It's just something that is just a little, And then you still get this sense of safety and comfort. So you have the dopamine, then you have the safety. And dopamine and serotonin together, the safety is actually what creates joy. And so you get your joy that's increasing. And then you actually start to decrease your cortisol, because are you getting to that point that you want to look at marriage or commitments and whatnot, and you have your dopamine release, you have your serotonin safety that you can make those life decisions, but also it's a decrease in cortisol. That person just if you've ever had the intense feeling of love, or just love in general, even with a child, you could love with a dog, just feeling that, you're not as stressed out. And then we have the loving grandmother is what I call it. But do you know what this love actually is? This is trust. This is the empathy that you are able to give to somebody. This is being vulnerable, to have, again, the safe place for the serotonin. And then what happens whenever we become all alone? And you've heard probably, and we've experienced it here at Hamilton, the broken heart syndrome. You can talk to doctors and even some of my nurse practitioners, and one specifically, she'll tell you about the broken heart syndrome, and that it is a true thing. Or if you ever see, I will tell you that my mom, she has had, we've had a litter of puppies. They grew up together. We ended up keeping them. And bless her heart, in the past month, 3 of them have passed away back to back to back. It was the mom, or it was first the 2 babies, and then the mother. They were 14 and 15 years old, so I can't say the babies. But, that broken heart, it does happen. So what are steps taken for love that we have with others? So you have marriage counseling, you have books on marriage, you have marriage conferences, you have small groups, you have counseling, and then also if you want to think about love that you may have with a child, you have time spent with them, even if it's the love that you could have for an animal or a dog or something like that. You spend time with them. You take steps to nurture that relationship with one another. So before I go to the next thing, I want you to describe somebody for you, and you'll see where this goes in a minute. But what if I describe somebody to you to self-proclaim that they love themselves, that they are beautiful, that they are smart, that they can do anything, that they love themselves? What if I told you that person was a child? You're okay with it. Most of us are okay with it. This is my daughter, Brenlyn. She loves herself, and I am okay with that. And she is happy, and she just has the joy. And if anybody's been around her, they know just how she exudes it. But as a child, it's okay to love one another, and to love ourselves. But let's look at the physiology of loving ourselves. Okay, it starts off with the dopamine release, that they did something good. Yay, I love myself, I'm so happy. Starts off at 3 or 2, whenever they,
You know, you coax them into going to the bathroom by themselves, like, yay. Or they take their first steps, or they, no matter what it is, it's that dopamine that they love themselves and they know that they've done something good. They feel safe in their environments, and they know that they have the trust of others and their trust of themselves, because that's what they're doing. They're having to learn how to do actions. And so they're getting safe and comfortable, testing boundaries and such. But then once they get out of that childhood, it kind of gets egotistical if we say that we love ourselves. And so this cortisol, because, you know, the first time that you start bragging about yourself, that, and it's not in essence a bragging, but people see it that way, somebody gets cut off on it. So say my daughter, somebody was talking about how she was commenting about how she loves that she can dance. Yes, she's young, but you know what? She loves that, and she has confidence in herself. She feels safe in herself, and she feels that she can trust herself, that she can do these dance moves. But then we have these people, or had somebody say, "You're not dancing right." You know, a little kid comes up and tells her, "You know, that broke her heart." So, but this is what happens. And just think as you go along for yourself, how much time do you actually are you spending, and are you just having these constant cortisol releases, and because you never have learned to love yourself? And this is something I believe that is so important, because if you can't love yourself, how are you going to love others? And how are you going to be loving others if you stopped it at a childhood? I always say that my job is to counsel and teach grown children, because things were not addressed in the past that made them either hypervigilant or hypersensitive to certain things. And so let's look at this. What are some things that we do to love ourselves? You know, the other stuff to love others, we go through all these hoops and jumps, and I even know for me and my husband, we did, even prior to marriage, we did a book to see if we're even good to get married. And then we did counseling. But how do we love ourselves if we're not teaching it at a young age, or that we're stopping it at a young age, and then we get into adulthood? So how can we learn to love better? I am going to start with saying, how do you learn to not love at all? Starting with the example that how I learned why I believe love is important with the definition that I gave earlier. This is me not loving that outfit, because that is absolutely horrible, but it's all good. But this is actually me, and you've heard my story. I've talked about it in the past. Some of you may have or not. But I was pregnant, out of wedlock, in the South, actually while teaching Bible study. Very good, you know. And that, even though I have a smile on my face, I am deeply, deeply depressed, deeply depressed. And what did that do? That led to my brain on shame. I was shaming myself. I did not love myself. Do you see how there's no very little color? The color should actually come right here, the biggest amount for love. There, you don't see anything. But that is what your brain on shame is. So this is what love does not look like. Now I'll tell you what love leads to is the not feeling safe, not feeling happy with yourself, not having joy. For me, what it led to is my contractions. My son came at 35 weeks. He came 5 weeks early, and my contractions was my liver swelling, breaking my ribs. So I don't know what true contractions feel like, but I know what breaking ribs feel like, and I will tell you it's not fun. But that's what I did to myself from not loving myself. I was depressed, like I said. I had a psychotic break right after having my son, thinking that my child was going to be stolen from me. I had postpartum, severe postpartum. Basically, I was not functioning for 3 months afterwards. And so these are real things, and this is all due for me because I didn't love myself. I didn't know how to love myself. And I will tell you, even today, even though I've learned, I still struggle with depression. That's something that I still today that I know that I have to look back on. So let's look at of these things that I describe love as, and some takeaways that we can do, some actionable steps. So love is safe. Love is forgiving. So my first thing for you is forgive yourself. Truly forgive yourself. So, and that takes first, I believe that you need to also forgive the abuser, or forgive the person that needs that had abused you or you felt had wronged you. And they could have done awful things to you. They may have left you with a child and said they never wanted to see them or do anything with them. But you know what? Because I forgive and I forgave, that person no longer owns me. And that is very important, to have that safetyness and that feeling that I'm comfortable with the life that I'm living right now. So please forgive, and then forgive yourself. And it is very, very important. Love is kind, but love is not negative. So what is that? That is those negative thoughts that automatically pop up. We've talked about it a little bit in the past, but the automatic negative thoughts, the ants in our brains, let's just kill those. So how do we do that? To kill an automatic negative thought whenever they come in to say, I'm not good enough, you ask yourself, is that true? And then you ask yourself again, is that really true? And give some evidence for it and for it not being. And then put it on its opposite. So I am good enough. And then you want to give the reasonings why. Why am I good enough? And how does that make you feel to have that until it feels comfortable to actually say it? Again, a lot of these practices may sound weird. They may sound different. But the truth is they actually work. The next one is to love empathetically. So assess your attitude that you are having with yourself. I know sometimes I can just not be a nice person, and I need to assess that. What is driving that? Physiology is the greatest thing for me that I love, because I know thyself, so I know whenever my heart rate's going upset, and I'm not exercising, or if I'm starting to get this queasy feeling or something like that, I know myself. And I know that there's going to be an attitude that comes with that, because we know that these hormones also affect sleep, food, mood, and movement. And so empathy, assess your attitude and what's happening. And then finally, love is understanding. So I do want all of y'all to get a piece of paper out, or if you're at your computer, see if you can get your phone, you can text something out. So I want you to think of somebody that has wronged you, but they didn't do it with malice. They didn't do it with hate. They just wronged you. And they're deserving of love and affection, and love and forgiveness. Think of that person in your mind. Okay. So I hope everybody has that person in their mind so that we're thinking about. So now that we have that, I want you to write a quick note to that person about love, and about what you would say to them, that this is the person that deserves forgiving and deserves kindness, and wronged you, but they didn't mean to do it with malice. So write a little note to them. So, and I'll give you a minute or two. So again, we're writing on just that note to that person that you thought about, and they have wronged you in the past, but they deserving of love and kindness, and they didn't do it with malice or hate. They just messed up. What would you write to them? If anybody would like to share, maybe type out quickly what they wrote. You don't have to if you don't want to. It may get deep with it, but if anybody wants to share, please feel free to put it in the chat box. So now that you have your note, I want you to reread it as if you're reading it to yourself, because you are deserving of love. You're deserving of forgiveness. You have messed up in the past. We all have. But we are deserving of the kindness, the grace, the forgiveness, the empathy towards ourselves. And so I hope that you can take this note and put it somewhere that you can see it, because you are worth it and you are worth more. And so I hope from this talk today that we have learned about some ways that you can start to love yourself better, because it is very, very important. So any comments, questions, thoughts? And once this is finished, please make sure that you complete the survey at the end, if you're doing this also for the point. Any comments, thoughts? So that is the conclusion of this WebEx, and I greatly appreciate your time. If you have, again, any additional questions, please feel free to reach out to me.